Listen very carefully because what I'm about to share with you could be the difference between keeping your green card and losing it forever in 2026. Right now, thousands of green card holders are making one critical mistake. A silent mistake that's causing them to be detained at airports, questioned for hours, and even forced to surrender their permanent resident status. This isn't just theory. This is happening to real people every single day at ports of entry across America. Immigration enforcement is getting stricter. New tracking systems are being implemented. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could lose everything you've worked so hard to achieve. So, if you're a green card holder or planning to become one, don't click away because the next few minutes could save your immigration status. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to US Move and Money, your trusted source for the latest immigration news, tips, and strategies to protect your American dream. I'm here to give you the real information you need to navigate the complex world of US immigration successfully. In today's video, we're diving deep into something extremely urgent, something that affects millions of lawful permanent residents across the United States. We're talking about the number one mistake that green card holders are making right now. A mistake that's costing people their status, causing massive stress at the border, and creating complications that could have easily been avoided with the right preparation. This video is based on real cases, real experiences from people who've contacted immigration attorneys in panic after facing aggressive questioning at customs and border protection checkpoints. These are everyday people, hardworking individuals who thought they were doing everything right, only to find themselves in detention rooms being pressured to give up their green cards. But here's the good news. After watching this video, you'll know exactly what this mistake is, how to avoid it, and what you need to do to travel freely while maintaining your precious green card status. So, let's get right into it. Before we reveal the number one mistake that's causing all these problems, we need to understand what's happening right now at U.S. ports of entry. The immigration enforcement landscape has changed dramatically, and green card holders are experiencing things they've never experienced before. Customs and border protection officers are cracking down harder than ever, and there are specific red flags that are triggering intensive secondary inspections and interrogations. The first major issue that's getting green card holders into trouble is the lack of ties to the United States. Think about this for a moment. When you have a green card, you're not just a visitor, you're a permanent resident. That word permanent is crucial. It means the United States is supposed to be your home, your primary residence, the place where your life is centered. But here's what's happening. Too many green card holders are traveling internationally, and when they return, they can't demonstrate any meaningful connection to America. Imagine you're a CBP officer at the airport. A green card holder comes through after being away for several months. You ask them basic questions. Where do you live in the United States? They hesitate. They don't own a home. They don't have a long-term apartment lease. They're staying with friends or relatives temporarily. You ask about their job. They're between employment. They took time off. They're looking for work. You ask about their tax situation. They haven't filed in a year or two, or they're behind on their payments. You ask about family connections. They have no immediate family members in the United States. Everyone they care about is in their home country. Now, put yourself in that officer's shoes. What conclusion would you draw? It looks like this person is using the United States as a convenience, not as their actual home. It looks like they're maintaining permanent residency on paper while actually living somewhere else. And that's a fundamental violation of what a green card represents. This is why officers are getting upset. This is why they're pushing hard on these individuals. They're seeing pattern after pattern of people who have green cards but aren't really living in America as permanent residents. The tax issue alone is massive. Immigration officers have access to IRS databases. They can see your filing history. When you can't show that you've been paying U.S. taxes regularly, it raises an enormous red flag. It suggests you haven't been earning income in the United States. It suggests your economic life is centered elsewhere. And when combined with no property ownership, no stable housing situation, and no family connections, it creates a picture of someone who's abandoned their residency without formally giving it up. The second major problem we're seeing is lack of preparation before travel. This is absolutely critical, and yet so many people ignore it. Green card holders have certain obligations and rights when it comes to international travel. If you know you're going to be outside the United States for an extended period, there are specific steps you should take before you leave. The most important one is applying for a re-entry permit. A re-entry permit is an official document that allows you to remain outside the United States for up to 2 years without abandoning your permanent resident status. It's proof that you intended your absence to be temporary, that you weren't trying to leave permanently. But here's what happens. People make plans to travel for what they think will be a few months. They don't apply for the re-entry permit because they figure they won't need it. Then circumstances change. A family member gets sicker than expected. A business matter takes longer to resolve. Personal issues come up. Suddenly those 3 months turn into 6 months, then 8 months, then almost a year, and they return to the United States without any official documentation explaining their extended absence. This puts you in an incredibly vulnerable position. You're now at the mercy of the CBP officer's judgment. You have to convince them with words alone that you didn't abandon your residency. You have no paper trail, no official government document supporting your story. And in today's enforcement environment, that's often not enough. Officers are skeptical. They've heard every excuse. They need concrete evidence, not just explanations. Another aspect of preparation that people neglect is documentation. Even if your trip is legitimate, even if you have excellent reasons for being away, you need to bring proof with you when you return. Medical records if you were caring for an ill relative, death certificates if there was a funeral, business contracts if you were handling commercial matters, educational enrollment documents if you were completing a degree program, correspondence showing you maintained your U.S. address and accounts, evidence that you kept your U.S. phone number active, that you maintained your American bank accounts, that you continued to receive mail at your U.S. address. All of these little pieces of evidence create a complete picture of someone who stepped away temporarily but maintained their foundation in America. Without this documentation, you're asking the officer to just trust you. And unfortunately, in the current climate, trust isn't enough. The third issue is a fundamental misunderstanding of the rules. Many green card holders operate under dangerous assumptions. They think as long as each individual trip is relatively short, everything is fine. They take 3 W-week trips, 4-week trips, 5-week trips. They come back for a couple of weeks, then leave again. They're never gone for more than 6 months at a stretch. So they figure they're safe. But what they don't realize is that CBP officers look at patterns. They look at cumulative absences. They look at the bigger picture of your life. If you're spending more time outside the United States than inside it, even if no single trip exceeds 6 months, you're establishing a pattern that suggests your real home is elsewhere. If you can't explain why you're traveling so frequently, if there's no clear purpose or necessity, it raises questions. Are you actually working abroad? Are you living with family in another country? Are you trying to maintain dual lives, enjoying permanent resident benefits in the US while actually residing somewhere else? This is something that green card holders never had to worry about before. In previous years, enforcement was more lenient. Officers were less aggressive in questioning travel patterns. But everything changed recently. The year 2025 marked a significant turning point with a major crackdown on green card holders and their travel patterns. Cases that would have passed through without much scrutiny before are now triggering lengthy interrogations. People are being held in secondary inspection for hours. Some are being detained for days. And many are facing enormous pressure to sign a form called the I-407, which is the official abandonment of permanent resident status. Once you sign that form, it's over. Your green card is gone. You're no longer a permanent resident. You'd have to start the entire immigration process over from scratch if you ever wanted to live in America again. And the terrifying thing is that people are signing these forms under duress, under pressure, after hours of questioning when they're exhausted and scared and just want the ordeal to be over. They don't realize they have rights. They don't realize they can refuse to sign. They don't realize that only an immigration judge has the authority to formally take away someone's permanent resident status, not a CBP officer at the airport. Now, let me reveal the number one mistake. the silent killer of green card status that's affecting more people than anything else. It's long absences from the United States without proper preparation. This is the critical issue that's causing the most problems, generating the most detained travelers, and resulting in the most surrendered green cards. And it's about to get much worse in 2026. Here's why. Starting in late January of 2026, U.S. Customs and Border Protection is implementing biometric exit tracking at all major ports of departure. This means they'll be collecting your fingerprints when you leave the country, not just when you enter. They'll have precise data on exactly when you departed, exactly when you returned, and exactly how long you were gone. There will be no more vague recollections, no more approximate dates, no more benefit of the doubt. The system will have concrete timestamps for every exit and entry. This technological advancement fundamentally changes the game for green card holders. Previously, if you left by land to Mexico or Canada, there was often no clear record of your departure date. You could claim you left more recently than you actually did. You could be vague about timelines. Officers had limited ability to verify your statements, but now they'll pull up your record and show you the exact date and time you crossed the border to leave. They'll show you the exact date and time you came back. The evidence will be irrefutable. This means that long absences will be immediately apparent. There will be no way to downplay them, no way to massage the timeline in your favor. If you were gone for 8 months, the record will show 8 months. If you took 6 trips in a year, each lasting several weeks, the cumulative total will be calculated automatically, and officers will use this data to make determinations about whether you've maintained your permanent residency or effectively abandoned it. Let me share a real case that illustrates exactly what's happening and why preparation is so crucial. An attorney recently worked with a client, a hardworking individual who had maintained his green card status properly for years. Then, a family emergency arose. His parent became seriously ill in his home country. He planned to go for approximately 4 months to help with care and medical decisions. He made arrangements at his job. He kept his apartment. He intended to return well within the 6-month guideline that most people understand as the safe zone. But life had other plans. His parents' condition deteriorated. There were complications. Additional medical procedures were needed. What was supposed to be a 4-month absence stretched into 9 months. He didn't have time before leaving to apply for a re-entry permit because the emergency was so sudden. He thought 4 months would be fine, so he didn't think the permit was necessary. And throughout his extended stay, he didn't document things properly. He didn't keep copies of medical records. He didn't maintain correspondence showing his intent to return. He didn't gather evidence of his continued ties to the United States. When he finally returned to America, exhausted from months of caregiving and grief, he walked into a nightmare at the airport. The CBP officers immediately flagged his prolonged absence. He was pulled aside for secondary inspection. What followed was hours of aggressive questioning. Why were you gone so long? Why didn't you come back sooner? Why didn't you apply for a re-entry permit? What ties do you have to the United States? Prove to us that America is your real home, he tried to explain. He told them about his parents' illness. He told them about the complications. He told them he had always intended to return, that he had a job waiting for him, that he had an apartment, that his life was in America, but he couldn't prove any of it. He didn't have medical records with him. He didn't have the original plane ticket showing he'd planned to return after 3 months. He didn't have the subsequent modified tickets showing the extensions. He didn't have letters from his employer. He didn't have his lease agreement. He didn't have recent tax returns. All the evidence existed, but it was back at his apartment or stored in email accounts he couldn't access at the airport. To the officers, his verbal explanation sounded like exactly what they hear from people trying to justify an abandonment of residency. Without documentation, without proof, it was just words. They detained him not for hours, but for over a week. They put enormous pressure on him to sign the I-407 form to voluntarily surrender his green card. They told him it would be easier, that he could apply for a visa to visit the US in the future, that fighting it would be pointless. They made it sound like signing was the reasonable option, the path of least resistance. Fortunately, this individual stood firm. He refused to sign. He insisted on his rights. Eventually, he was paroled into the United States, meaning he was allowed to enter temporarily while his case was being processed. But he now faces an immigration judge. He'll have to appear in court. He'll have to present all that evidence he should have brought with him initially. He'll have to make his case for why his absence didn't constitute an abandonment of residency. The stress, the uncertainty, the legal expenses, all of this could have been avoided with proper preparation. And this is just one case. Immigration attorneys are hearing these stories every single day. People calling in a panic from airports, people who've been detained, people who've been pressured to surrender their status, people who signed the I-407 under duress and now realize what they've lost. It's heartbreaking because in most cases, these are legitimate residents who made legitimate trips but failed to prepare properly. Now, here's something that surprises many people. Even having a re-entry permit isn't always enough anymore. Another client had done everything by the book. Before leaving for an extended trip, this person applied for a re-entry permit. The application was approved. They had the official document in hand showing they were permitted to be outside the United States for up to 2 years. They thought they were completely protected. They figured with that permit, their entry back into America would be smooth and simple. But when they returned, they still faced intensive questioning. The officers acknowledged the re-entry permit. They said, "Fine, you applied for the permit, that's good, but we still need to understand your ties to the United States. What are you coming back to? Where will you live? Where will you work? Do you have family here? Have you been paying taxes? Show us proof that America is genuinely your home and not just a place you have paperwork for." The re-entry permit proves you didn't intend to abandon your status when you left, but it doesn't prove your trip was genuinely temporary. It doesn't prove you maintained sufficient ties to America. It doesn't prove you're coming back to actually live in the United States as opposed to just visiting periodically. Officers want to see the complete picture. They want evidence of an American life waiting for you, a job or business, a home or long-term lease, family members, financial accounts and obligations, tax compliance, community connections. This is the reality that green card holders need to understand. The green card represents permanent residency. That means the United States is your permanent home, not one of your homes, not a backup option, not a convenient status to maintain while actually living elsewhere, your permanent primary home. And immigration officers are now enforcing this principle more strictly than they have in decades. So, what do you need to do? How do you protect yourself? How do you avoid becoming another statistic, another person detained at the border, another person pressured to give up their status? The answer is planning and documentation. You need to take this seriously because getting a green card is incredibly difficult. The process takes years. It requires enormous effort, money, and patience. If you're fortunate enough to already have permanent resident status, you cannot afford to lose it over preventable mistakes. First, if you know you'll be outside the United States for more than a few months, apply for a re-entry permit before you leave. Don't assume you won't need it. Don't figure you'll probably be back sooner. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances change. Having that re-entry permit provides crucial protection. It's official government documentation of your intent to return. It gives you breathing room if your trip takes longer than expected. Second, document everything before you travel. Gather proof of your U.S. ties. Make copies of your lease or mortgage documents. Get a letter from your employer confirming your job will be waiting for you. Collect your recent tax returns showing you've been filing and paying properly. Get bank statements showing you maintain active U.S. accounts. If you have family in the United States, keep documents proving that relationship. Create a folder, physical or digital, with all this evidence. Bring it with you when you travel. Third, document your reason for traveling. If you're visiting family, keep correspondence. If someone is ill, get medical records. If you're handling business, keep contracts and communications. If you're completing education, keep enrollment confirmations and academic records. The more evidence you have showing the purpose and necessity of your trip, the stronger your position when you return. Fourth, maintain your U.S. presence even while abroad. Keep your U.S. phone number active, continue paying your U.S. bills, maintain your U.S. address, keep your bank accounts and credit cards in use, file your taxes on time. These ongoing connections demonstrate you haven't abandoned your residency. Your life is still rooted in America even though you're temporarily elsewhere. Fifth, Know your rights. Understand that CBP officers at the port of entry can question you. They can refer you to secondary inspection. They can detain you temporarily, but they cannot force you to sign the I-47 form. They cannot take away your green card. Only an immigration judge has the authority to formally remove permanent resident status. If you're pressured to sign that form, you have the right to refuse. You have the right to request to speak with an attorney. You have the right to insist on your day in court if there's a dispute about your residency. Never sign the I-407 under pressure. Never give up your status because an officer is being aggressive or because you're tired and want the interrogation to end. Once you sign that form, the game is over, your green card is gone. There's no appeal, no takebacks, no reconsideration. You would have to leave the country and start the entire immigration process from zero. If you ever wanted to return as a permanent resident, it could take years or it might never happen at all. The combination of proper documentation, a re-entry permit if your trip will be extended, and knowledge of your rights creates a strong defense against losing your status. Even if you face questioning, even if officers are skeptical, having evidence in hand makes it very difficult for them to claim you've abandoned your residency. You can show them your lease. You can show them your tax returns. You can show them your employment letter. You can show them medical records or other documentation explaining your absence. You can show them your re-entry permit, and you can calmly, politely insist on your rights if they try to pressure you into surrendering your card. The key is preparation. Don't wait until you're standing in an interrogation room at the airport to think about these issues. Don't assume everything will be fine. Don't trust that officers will be understanding and lenient. The enforcement environment has changed. The technology tracking your movements is improving. The scrutiny on permanent residents is intensifying. You need to be proactive. You need to plan ahead. You need to document properly. Also, understand that this isn't just about major trips. Even patterns of frequent shorter trips can raise concerns. If you're leaving the country every month, if you're spending more cumulative time abroad than in America, if your travel pattern suggests you're not actually living in the United States, you could face questions. Always be prepared to explain your travel. Why are you going? What's the purpose? Why so frequently? What's your life in America like between these trips? The more your lifestyle resembles someone who's actually living abroad but maintaining a green card for convenience, the more trouble you're likely to face. Remember that permanent residency is a privilege, not an automatic right. It can be lost. And in today's environment, with increased enforcement and better tracking systems, the margin for error is shrinking. Looking ahead to 2026 and beyond, expect these issues to intensify. The biometric exit tracking system will eliminate ambiguity about travel dates and durations. Immigration authorities will have unprecedented data about resident travel patterns. Policy priorities may shift towards stricter enforcement of residency requirements. The window for leniency is closing. Now is the time to get serious about maintaining your status properly. If you're someone who travels frequently for legitimate reasons like caring for elderly parents, maintaining business operations in multiple countries, or completing educational programs abroad, you need a strategy. Consult with an immigration attorney. Get professional guidance on how to structure your travel, what documentation you need, when to apply for re-entry permits, and how to demonstrate ongoing U.S. ties despite your absences. Don't try to navigate this alone based on assumptions or what you've heard from friends. The stakes are too high. All right, everyone, we've covered a lot of critical information in this video. The bottom line is this: long absences from the United States without proper preparation and documentation are the #1 mistake green card holders are making right now. This mistake is causing people to lose their permanent resident status, face detention at ports of entry, and endure traumatic experiences that could have been completely avoided. With new biometric exit tracking coming in 2026, these issues are only going to become more pronounced and enforcement more strict. But now you know what you need to do. Plan your travel carefully, apply for re-entry permits when appropriate, document everything about your trips and your U.S. ties, maintain active connections to America even while abroad, know your rights, and never sign that I-47 form under pressure. With proper preparation, you can travel freely, visit family, handle business abroad, and still maintain your precious green card status. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button right now. It helps us reach more people who need this crucial information. Subscribe to US Move and Money if you haven't already, and make sure to click that notification bell so you never miss our videos. We're constantly monitoring immigration policy changes, enforcement trends, and providing you with the information you need to protect your American dream. Do you have questions about green card travel? Have you faced issues at ports of entry? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your stories help others understand what's really happening out there. And if you know someone who's a green card holder, please share this video with them. The information we've covered today could literally save someone's permanent resident status. Thank you so much for watching US Move and Money. Remember, knowledge is power in immigration matters. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay protected. I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue bringing you the immigration information that matters most to your future in America. Take care, everyone.